The Soviet Union itself is no more.
The United States military has begun strikes.
Light them all up.
Считаю, что для современного мира однополярная модель не только неприемлема, но и вообще невозможна.
Народные республики Донбасса обратились к России с просьбой о помощи. Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Russian military is taking chips from dishwashers and refrigerators to fix their military hardware. Russia's industry is in tatters.
Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been.
Hello and welcome back to another Sunday, but it's a special Sunday. It's a special super Slav Sunday as the boys are back in town. Two of our team members are back from Donbass. So we will get to them and they will tell us about their harrowing story. And I'm sure a lot of Serbian complaints. But John, how are you? Big week. Another big week.
Doing good on this super Slav Sunday. Feeling rested. Hope everybody's had a good holiday season. DD Geopolitics. We're going on the offensive. We got a new podcast with Chris Halali coming out.
You're such a spoiler. Spoiler alert.
We already shared it. So might as well let folks know to get ready for that. We have more good content coming out, but I'm excited for what the new year is going to bring. Hopefully more travels. So make sure that you go donate to our travel fund. And I'm excited to get to work.
Yeah, 2025 will probably be quite a big year for DDG. You're going to Venezuela really soon.
Yep. Let's hope things stay.
I don't think John watered his plant, Shelly. John switched out the plant. John's sad tree. He got a new one.
I got the new plant. I think I overwatered the other one a little bit. I'm taking too good care of it.
Yeah.
But
you'll need some plant care tips.
Shoot some plant care tips in the comments because clearly I need them. We might just be switching out new plants every couple of weeks.
We don't want to keep Balkaners waiting, although they're really professional at keeping others waiting. So for the first time ever, which is interesting, our producer's finally coming in front of the camera. I don't think he's been on a podcast for over a year and a half. And finally, my Serbian brother, Mario, is joining us. And welcome to the show.
Our super secret Slav.
Hey. Yeah, super secret squirrel Slavs.
Is that really him?
Like, why the squirrels?
That's really him. Yeah, or can you not believe it? He's just so good looking. You can't even.
Yeah, bro.
Hello, guys.
No, Barut has a great camera presence, and we need to bring him on more. But
they're so cool. All right, tell us about your trip. All about
Mario,
it. So,
you go ahead.
Mario, I know that from the beginning.
You're the
started off to a rocky start because you had to spend more time in Turkey than you wanted to. What happened? How much time did you spend in Istanbul?
Yeah, but it was cool, like I didn't realize that my mustaches are like they thought of me like I'm a local guy, and they like and they're like I got like 50% off of everything, like so it was cool, but
that one souvenir shop guy really liked you in Moscow.
Yeah. Well, no, it was if we want to talk about our time in Donbass, in Donetsk, to be exact, or Mariupol, or other cities, other villages.
So did you guys meet up in Istanbul or did you meet up in Moscow?
No. We took different routes at a different time when it came to traveling, but we traveled with the same airlines, but different time, So we met up in Moscow. Yeah.
People don't understand how much of an undertaking it is because Russia is so huge, and I think in a lot of people's minds, it's like, but it's a pretty intense trip, right? In terms of the travel and the bus rides that you guys
especially for you guys. So for us, it was, there were options for us to travel directly through Serbia. We just got the tickets to go through Istanbul, so it was like we did like a detour, I guess. But we'll talk about big Russia later.
In Balkans, like we are used to riding a bus more than riding in airplanes, So for me, the bus ride is pretty easy, even if it lasted for like 17 hours from Moscow to Donetsk, but it was cool, you can hear people like talking. We met like amongst each other, like the other people from other countries, from other parts of the world. So it was cool. But when it came to Istanbul, I was a bit afraid, because I talked a lot about Erdogan and Turkey, after this shit in Syria happened. I'm sorry for cursing, but so I was like afraid, like I thought like I'm a little bit paranoid. I thought like somebody is going to give me a hard time, but next time I go, I will be like, it will be more cool because I didn't know really that these mustaches do the thing in Turkey. I can finish you guys. Everything, like hotels.
Do you think that it'll help if I have a mustache, or do you think that?
No, if you go blonde, they're going to donate like camels, to DD Geopolitics, like hundreds.
All right. Yeah. Make an appointment at the salon before we go, Sarah.
Let's make one of the edits from their trip. Hold on.
Work by Rowley Stewart. Как дела в краю степей терриконов? Я слышал, что пришли враги на нашу землю и хотят всех уничтожить, пока детей. Донбасс, спасай своих детей. Вставай, Донбасс, вставай, мой край родной. Вставай, Донбасс, прогоним хунту вместе. Вставай, Донбасс, Россия, мать с тобой. Вставай, Донбасс, ты станешь новым Брестом. Как поживают работяги и шахтеры, когда гуляли на Майдане, наш народ вовсю работал и бездельников кормил. Ведь нам поможет твоя жизнь, это наши города, и будут наши навсегда, мы их врагам не дадим. Вставай, Донбасс, прогоним хунту вместе. Вставай, Донбасс, ты станешь новым Брестом. Вставай, Донбасс, вставай, мой край родной. Вставай, Донбасс, Россия, мать с тобой.
Yeah,
Lots
so
of good
that's pretty much the whole trip, like in a one video edit. Yeah, but Mario.
Yes.
Yeah, John. Sorry, I cut off.
So
No,
tell us
no,
what
it's
happened.
good. Yeah.
We were with Haas. How was Haas?
Mario interviewed us. His
How did your interview go?
What? It was great. Like it was in the beginning, it was pretty close, but after I like told him like, get yourself together, like he was like cool. You know, like sometimes you know, working like hit people, you know, in some sense, you know, but you know, you get used to it. I just wanted to say right now, after this video clip, after this collage or mix, that every time I listen to this song and I look into this video, the bravery of that people there, like it just I cannot like handle it. So it's such a great bravery of people in Donetsk, like really, guys, like.
But you both come from, you both grew up in war, both of you. So
yeah, but
some more than others, let's say.
Yeah, but like this is like these people are living like 10 years in under the grenades of NATO and fascists from Ukraine, from Kiev, and I thought that Serbs, like us Serbs, we are like brave, but no, guys, like these people in Donetsk, like little children, are really so much brave that I have huge respect for them. Like this is the thing that you have to see and feel, like they're ready to live, they're ready to fight, they're ready to have a normal life, even if the HIMARS are like going like through the skies, you know. So it's huge respect for them. Like,
tell us about that. So while you guys were there were plenty of attacks on not only Russia, but where you guys were in Donetsk. So
yeah.
What day did you guys arrive? What day of the week was it?
So the thing is, we arrived on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, but we went straight to the hotel. Then first day we were stayed in Donetsk. So you would easily forget there's a war. In Donetsk. The city is alive, restaurants are open, bars are open, shops are open, hotels are open. So we went to see museums, a bunch of memorials. So the Children of War Memorial, we saw the Alley of Angels, paid respects to the victims. We went to see the circus, but at the end of the first day, it was right, Mario. We went to Petrovsky districts of Donetsk. So if anyone knows, since I think it was spring this year when Avdiivka was liberated, a lot of pressure lifted from Donetsk. So Donetsk is now not in reach of artillery. but Ukrainians obviously still launch drones, missiles, whatever. So you can hear, especially in Petrovsky districts, where it's just closer to the front line, and it got hit heavily even recently. You could hear like either outgoing but mostly air defense. So just a distant pop, like poof, poof, every once in a while. We even saw like outgoing air defense missile from our hotel balcony.
Yeah.
But then on day 3, I think it was, we had breakfast. We were ready to go out. I think Mario's part of the story should be better, because I was just sitting in a lobby, and I didn't even react, because it was just an explosion, but it got progressively louder. But Mario was talking to his wife. So you take it over. How did you experience the HIMARS strike?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, as Boris said. Like we knew where we're going to, like where are we going, and then after we saw like the city is functioning perfectly, I forgot also that there's a war going on. Like there's a cities like 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers that are being pounded every single day. And like that morning when the Ukrainian NATO backed Ukrainians started to bomb Donetsk, like I was talking with my wife on the phone, and you know guys how we are. Like you don't want anybody to be worried, you lie, you say everything is cool, everything is great, everything is super, and then after like a half of second, after I hang up, the bombs started like flying, and of course Russian anti-aircraft artillery like took all of them down, but one went through the air defense and exploded like, I don't know, 500 meters. We don't know the exact place, but 500 meters approximately from our hotel. So for me, I was back in year 1999. It was like flash, like crazy, super flash. Like, okay, this is like, Belgrade in 1999, NATO is bombing, like throwing cluster bombs or tomahawks, on civilian buildings and stuff. And I was a little bit, it's hard. Again, I would say it's hard for Serbian to say, but I was like, for like 2 or 3 minutes, I was like scared. And then after that, I took all that fear and like I started cursing, like hell, on Serbian. I was like that. I was ready to go to put my camera down and do something else.
You ready to go fight?
I won't say here.
In Minecraft? In Minecraft,
yeah. No, so for me, like, it was a little different. Like I was sitting inside. Haas, for example, he was having coffee. So everyone experienced it a little differently. I didn't even like realize what was happening. Just the first explosion was like, okay, this is AD. The second one got a bit louder. I didn't even like kind of notice it. The third one got super loud. Remember, like the third one was still AD but super close. But then the fourth one, I think the fourth one was the one that broke through. Like the hotel shook, and then we had this like some friends, no-named friends, let's say, that rushed everyone in the cellar. At least everyone that was on the like ground floor. People on the like first floor where the restaurant was, they ran away from the windows. Obviously, like we had a guy from Cameroon there. He was just getting ready in his room. He saw the interception through his window. But yeah, later we got. Let me just find it. Later we got a piece of it.
You did you brought it with yourself?
So yeah, this was like one of the pieces of the shot down HIMARS. Mind you, this is super heavy. Like you do not want this flying through your body. You're done. So we had that. I did a stupid thing with this, like, because I put it in my jacket, and then like at the airport in Istanbul, I was like, "Fuck! What if like they pull out my jacket for those random swipes for explosives? How am I gonna explain that? Depleted uranium jacket, whatever. But yeah, it was pretty surreal. Yeah. We had like different people reacted differently, I guess. Mario got pretty angry. Some got depressed. Some got sad. We had the Lebanese journalist. She was like, she was
laughing.
She was laughing. She's like, yeah, this happens every day in Lebanon. Let's go film. Can we go film?
Can we go like how we go selfie? You know, like
yeah.
She was like that. You know.
Well, you mentioned the emotional like impact that everybody felt in different ways. And I know that when you were there, you got the chance to talk to a number of civilians and just regular people. I'm not sure if that was in Donetsk or elsewhere, but I'm curious because obviously, you know, it elicits such a strong emotion for people who haven't even been in the area for a week. You can only imagine the types of feelings that must come from the civilian population living in the Donbass, the resentment, the anger, the fear, all of those things. And so I'm curious, in these discussions that you guys had with just normal people on the ground, you know, what were some of the main takeaways that you had, and what were some of the feelings that people expressed, maybe toward the West or the United States in particular, in their role in allowing all this? Because of course we know with HIMARS and other missile systems, it requires U.S. Experts to operate these systems, right? So I'm curious about how those conversations went.
Yeah, I had an interview. I did a podcast with also. Okay, I did it with Kaz. He's American, yeah, and I did it with Yevgeny Nikolaev. He's a commander of battalion called Rodnya. It's a part of Petnashka, and it's a serious battalion. He's a serious man. He used to be a university professor, and he took to the front lines. And
what did he teach?
I don't know exactly what. I think it was philosophy. And through our talk, I see that these people are ready to fight till the end, so they can live in peace. And when it comes to Western nations, we always talk differently about Western politicians and people from the West. You know, like, everybody knows that like there is more than 50% of people in United States that doesn't support funding of this kind of war, or also France, Germany, and they always say, like, when they send a message like this man did, like he's sending it to the government, he's sending those messages to administrations, not to the people, when he says like we are going to go to the end. And when it comes to regular people, regular folks, they are like, when they talk to me, they know that I had two wars, like one when I had like since I was 2 to 6, then when I had 10 years, you know, and they speak with me in the language that like I can understand, and I see that they are ready to go also to the very end. Like they're calling for Ukrainians to put their arms down, to switch to the right side, and to fight against the like globalistic demons, like together with them. And Borut and I met those people, like Ukrainians who went on the other side. Yeah.
Well, let's look at this clip, and then we'll talk about your time with that specific battalion.
Ili bez love, da li brilj, ili moja brać, nema moje tvoje, moja brać svoju braću vole, moja brać, znaju šta je beda, kada nemaš ni za hleba, moja brać, tu su kada treba, moja brać, svi su kao jedan, u tuđini, svi smo mi brać, uvek sloga, nikada svađa, Bog me čuva, majci se vraća, Balkan ratnik je rađa, moja brać, moja brać, tuđini, svi smo mi braća, uvek sloga, nikada svađa, Bog me čuva, majci se vraća, Balkan ratnik je rađa, moja braća, moja braća.
Well, I think first I just want to say, our audience should understand how special these insights are that are coming from DD Geopolitics, Beirut, Mario, everybody. So few people actually get the chance to interact with the civilians in the Donbass, but not only that, get to interview battalions and spend time with them and get the war from this perspective. And I think it's just such a unique and valuable journalistic insight. So, for me, I feel very privileged to be able to speak to you guys about it and to be able to get these insights, because we in mainstream media in the West, this is completely lacking. We get the information from one side, our journalists go to one side. But yeah, so tell us about what the time was like with these battalions and what you learned from them.
So first of all, this edit is it's probably very special to me and Mario from the team that organized the trip because of the song. And like I'll tie it into what you said before. So how people are living and how they treat everyone. Like Mario said, they look at countries, right? We were all brothers there. Like unfriendly, I told them unfriendly, friendly countries. It didn't matter to them. Like we were all brothers. So that's why the song, especially we were both Slavs, so we were like, okay, Slav brothers. That happened after a few shots of vodka. That happened a lot. But like it was interesting to see how normal they live, and how aware they are of like world politics and everything. Like super up to date with everything, and how they actually knew us. This the thing I was most surprised. Like they knew DD Geopolitics there, and that like kind of broke my heart when I spoke to them. Like they thanked like a bunch of people that run some local Telegram channels were like, oh, wait, you're from DD Geopolitics? Like, yeah, thank you for sharing the truth. Thank you for sharing our stories. So expect more collaboration with them, more shows. As for the battalions, I mean, yeah, we on 2 separate days we spent with 2 separate battalions. So one was Española battalion, which is a volunteer battalion. Basically, mostly like football fans, CSKA, Spartak Moscow fans, pretty rowdy fellas, let's say, like really like crazy motherfuckers. But they're super nice to us. Like we got to ride on a BTR. They gave people could shoot RPGs. Like the Lebanese reporter, she's like what 150. They gave her an RPG to shoot. It was super funny because everyone was like looking. Are they really gonna do that? And then the medic from the battalion started walking slowly behind the BTR, and we were like, man, if the medic is walking behind the BTR, we should probably do the same. But nothing happened. Of course, we had a fun time at that range. And then the other one was Maxim Krivonos battalion. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's so former AFU Ukrainian soldiers that either were conscripted or were in the military before, and then switched sides or surrendered or just ran to the Russian side. And they have like it's one of the 2 battalions, I think, that has Ukrainians, but this one was like super disciplined, super like calm, way calmer in energy. But their stories obviously is way sadder if you think about it, right? They have family on the other side. Yeah, I don't know. Mario, you interviewed them. We'll post that.
I interviewed. Yeah. I'm going to also put that on like maybe in like 1.5 weeks after I finish the editing and the translation. It is super. When it comes to Española, when it comes to the guys who came from the football stands, and guys that here in Europe, like football is different, like soccer, or how is it called in United States? Like here, like we have the stands, and like there is like another part of life, and people guys in Española are basically like from the main clubs in the fans of the main clubs in Russia, and also from Eastern, like from ex-Ukraine, you can find people there. Maybe they're from some other countries, but we didn't ask questions because nobody wants to like show themselves fully. But I think I I saw, and for real, the thing I have to say, because like besides the arms and equipment that they have, because it's like pretty new, they're pretty well equipped, like hardcore equipped. They have like their own chefs, you know. Like for me, it was like, you know, in army, like the food, like who likes the food in army? Like nobody loves the food in army, like, but these guys are like eating like McDonald's stuff, you know. So it's they eat wraps, they eat tortillas, they have their chefs, they're drinking Coke, Sprite, you know, they have everything. Like they are ready to go. Like as I said, like these guys are ready to go to Berlin. Like yeah, it's pretty cool. Like from this angle. But the other guys, the guys who went from Ukrainian side to the Russian side, I asked some guys who are not the part of the battalion, but who are like really high when it comes to knowing the stuff. They told me that like those guys have to go to check out 3 times a month. They need to be checked fully, you know, because you know when you switch sides, you know, I came there and I was like, fuck, these are Ukrainians with guns, you know. Like what if the guy has a bad day, you know, like, or he drank something like kerosene, like I don't know, like antifreeze, I don't know how to say it in English. Yeah, and he starts shooting at us like, oh motherfucker, Serbian, you know, like Slovenian, even worse, you know, and he kills us. But they're like pretty disciplined, you know. They had to be, their brains probably for the ones who are not conscripted, the brains really need to be like, you know, to do like a turnaround in their heads from the Russian army. And but the thing that I saw in their eyes is like I saw fear in few people's eyes, like from the soldiers. I see like they're unhappy, like, you know, who can be happy in the war, like, but you can see different, like just check their eyes out and you can feel what they are feeling. But again, this also, the 2nd battalion is also fully equipped. They eat well, they sleep well, they have great uniforms, good boots. They have everything that they need to fight for the freedom. Yeah.
So in those conversations with the Ukrainians now serving in the Russian armed forces, the people who defected, what did some of the people have to say about the reasons why they defected or why they've chosen to switch sides?
But yeah, this guy that I spoke to, 2 of them I spoke to, I filmed it. This guy, he was a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He finished university. He started working as a doctor, and then he I think it's like I think that I'm not going to say a wrong thing. He joined the Ukrainian army and to work as a medic, and then he saw there, as he explains, he saw like total like energy inside of the Ukrainian army, and after some time, when they got close to fight with Russians, like he I think he was caught, and basically he was like glad that it happened. But when I finished the interview and the translation, I will have more information, because you know, Serbian and Russian is maybe similar, but we cannot understand each other perfectly, you know. So I don't have like a translator here right now, so he can like give you like the quotes. But the guys didn't like the Nazism. They are like didn't like the fascism that the army was promoting, and Bandera stuff and everything. And this is the reason why they switch sides. One of the reasons why they switched sides, because they are like anti-fascists, you know. I don't get it, like how people can be fascist, you know, but you probably have like, you have Ukrainians, you have Croatians, like Poles and stuff. So there is like a lot of work to do to denazify like Europe and stuff.
And what's the view among the battalions? I mean, either of the ones that you guys had a chance to interact with, when it comes to just that, the fascist Nazi elements in Ukraine? Is this something that is talked about quite frequently? Is that kind of one of the driving motivators for people who end up joining and fighting?
I don't think it does. With the Maxim Krivonos battalion, there was talk about that. But like Española battalion, we didn't discuss much with them. They like kept to themselves mostly. They shot, they did drills, they gave us guns. We went to there. It was all they were a little bit more like elite and secluded, I guess. So we didn't talk much politics about that. But I doubt they would. They have like an agenda. The Russians, they're gonna liberate the Russians as one people. That's like the main motivator, I guess. Now, basically, if you think about it, like the hardcore Nazis, that basically not ended, but like they got heavily reduced in Azovstal. We visited Azovstal as well. After that,
let's play the clip. We have a clip. We have the clip up. Let's play it.
Yeah, so yeah, Azovstal was like, if for people who don't know, it was like the last stand of Azov battalion at the Battle of Mariupol early in the war. So Azov, along with other like Aidar, the right sectors, like the hardcore Nazis that were, Azov was probably the most famous one. It still exists, but it's like reduced to a bunch of influencers now. I can't say anything different. So I think that pretty much ended, and then it started like forced conscriptions, and now we're at thinking about conscripting 18-year-olds. So that's pretty sad. But yeah, Azovstal, Mariupol.
Yeah. It goes.
Are Russians lying, or is it getting really rebuilt? Is it Russian propaganda?
Bro, like it's like Dubai, man. Like, but for real, like every second.
Dubai, as you say.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't believe it, man. Like they're like rebuilding like crazy. Like every second building. Like when you go down the street, like there is almost all the buildings are being like reconstructed. Like it's crazy. It's really crazy. I haven't seen that. Like in I don't know, like countries that are living in peace, that they have some that kind of rebuildment in their own cities. Like this is really the thing. Like workers everywhere. It's like half city are like workers, and the main thing is that people are coming back. Not only the ones like who lived in Mariupol or before like the confrontation, the big confrontation, but people from the west, from the other side of Dnipro, people from Kiev are moving because they know what is going to happen. They're finding their peace in Mariupol, So it is pretty like crazy, and it's the city on the sea. Guys, you have to know that that's a touristic place. Like tourists there, it has a beautiful beach. You in the restaurants you have like 15 types of fish. To choose what you want to eat. It's a rich city, and corruption from the government in Kiev and from the others like mafias members. They destroyed it even before the war. That city was destroyed before the war. They didn't have like they have so much stuff. They can give so much stuff, but everything was canceled. Everything was canceled due to the corruption. So these bombs that fell on Azovstal, for example, when the Nazis hit there like little rats, the Russians have a plan now to completely sweep the grounds and make a huge park there. So and Borut, maybe I don't know if you remember, but there is mines everywhere. Ukrainians put the mines everywhere. I wanted to go to peace, somewhere on the Azovstal, like a tradition, the peace there where the Nazis were, and somebody was like, no, Mario, no, there is mines. And I was like watching, like, what the fuck, like it's going to be my last relax, like after some time traveling.
The only thing
The
that's
last one.
renovated in Azovstal is the monument to the workers of Azovstal that fought the Nazis in the Second World War. That's like brand new.
Yeah.
In front of
And the theater. And the theater. And the theater
I mean,
is
I'm
like
talking
finishing.
Azovstal, not Mariupol. Azovstal, yeah, but you
Okay.
still get the warnings. The problems are those petal mines. Like, I don't know if people know, but petal mines look like toys. They're like plastic, like anti-personnel mines that look like toys. Like a bunch of kids got, like butterflies, yeah, and like they're like green and earth-colored brown. So there's plenty of that, but then Azovstal you can't get inside because the mining process is not over yet. So maybe next trip, I don't know, we'll maybe be able to get closer.
It's going to be hard to clean, you know. It's going to be hard to
Yeah,
clean.
it'll take years. They said like it'll take years, but they recycle a lot of stuff. So one thing about Mariupol is like how and why is it getting so rebuilt so fast is also that St. Petersburg is the sister city
to Mariupol.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money there for the renovation. Like most of the big historic buildings, like in the center, the churches. Even we visited the Mariupol Drama Theater. That will be in a few months. Will be open. More you go towards Azovstal, the old part of town, where the buildings, not the big buildings, but like the smaller, like city center kind of old city center buildings towards Azovstal, those are still destroyed. Like when you leave, like center Mariupol, I mean that's wrecked still. But yeah, like apartment buildings, historical buildings, everything's getting rebuilt in the same style that it was in the historical style. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, Mario, since I have you here and we have some goings on in Serbia, why don't you? And we're almost done with the episode anyway. They're kind of current events. So, what can you tell us about the recent student protests in Serbia? I mean, I want to talk about it only because we have Georgia kind of going on at the same time, and they're completely different. People are like, "Oh, it's another color revolution, another NGO-backed coup." But I don't think that Serbia was that. So can you tell us about, and just so our listeners know, a train state, you guys look up the Novi Sad train station tragedy, because that's kind of what spurred all this on. But go ahead, Mario. I kind of want to have a little bit of a run.
Yeah. That was the thing that triggered the first protests. The first protests, which were organized by the, if I can call them opposition in Serbia, who have the ties to NGOs and the funds from USAID, for example. You know, like this is in the beginning, but like after 1 week or more, the students started protesting, and students are, you know, the young people, young folks. You cannot buy them. Like they're not for sale, you know, and they're like righteous. And right now we have. This is always the problem in Serbia. The problem among Serbs are because we are like divided pretty easy. You know, somebody just comes and say like, "Hey, you know that guy, like he works for this guy, and the other guy works for the other guy," you know, and they start fighting. You know, this is why we had civil wars here. This is why we had like Chetniks and partisans. Like, you know, we had like two groups, both anti-fascist, but fighting amongst each other. You know, so it's pretty crazy. We're a little fucked up, but yeah, it is. I see, and I'm happy because I see it. You know, I'm happy because I see the current government is like shaking a little bit. Like Vučić is making a lot of mistakes. But when it comes to students and the protests now, the majority is of people who are gathering on the streets and I can say it with. It's backed. Basically, I know people who go to the streets. I know those people. They're patriots. These are people who love their country. The European Union flag is banned.
Yeah, I want to stress that. I wish I uploaded that clip, but they're clean.
Yeah. So that kind of thing is banned. You cannot like you can wear a flag of Serbia, wear a flag of Russia, wear a flag of Archangel Michael, wear this kind of flags, but no European Union flag. Now, please have in mind that somewhere like in the third row, there is people who are backed from George Soros or USAID or Norwegian embassies or Swedish or UK. Like there has to be somebody who is waiting for a right time to take over the protests and be a leader and try to show to those people where to go, and it would probably be a not so good direction. But right now I see that students are winning. The government here is making a lot of mistakes. I couldn't believe that can happen. Of course, you have to have in mind that Serbia with its government didn't impose any kind of sanctions to Russia, but still keeps playing like some kind of game, like close game with the European Union, which I don't like and I do not support. And this is why I don't support the current government in Serbia. But there is like other options who are mainstream and who are like offering themselves to lead the country. Those guys are even worse.
They always are.
Yeah. So it's really like students are pretty clean when it comes to protests. Yeah. But when I talk about like guys and girls from the political parties, I don't trust them at all. So for me, if I could choose, like give the government to students, but not to these guys who are like all of them were involved in 5th October in 2000. So
what do you think makes Serbian young adults and youth different and less susceptible than others? Because they're just not susceptible to the influence of NGOs like they are in other European countries. Is it the fact that they're not in NATO and not in the EU and there's not a really strong grip of the West on Serbia? Or
European Union has invested, I know how many billions dollars or euros, and also United States invested so much money in Serbia to bring the democracy, like to our country. First the bombs, then the songs, so it's they lost their investment. I have to say it again, like Serbs are pretty. You can't know what we are going to do like next, especially when it comes to masses. And when we see that somebody is accepting everything in Europe, like, oh, this is cool, like gender balance stuff, like don't be like sexist and stuff, and we're like organically we cannot take it. This is why we are like always through history we were like the crazy ones. They didn't call us like that just like for no reason. We don't. I love it. I love that with my people and in my people. I love that because we do not accept the things that everybody accepts easily. We need to consider and think through it. Like we are skeptics, healthy skeptics who wants to hear the second opinion. Not like somebody comes to you and say, okay, guy, you need to take like a vaccine, and you say, okay, yeah, I will. Yeah, we are skeptics. We don't trust the people who bombed us 25 years ago.
It's so interesting because Serbs are skeptical of it, but it's weird because other populations seem to like easily memory hole it. Like you go to Serbia and they're still angry about the Nazis they're still angry about the 90s. You can talk to Iraqis that don't even care about the Iraq war. I'm like, what do you mean? So it's like,
I don't know.
It just
I don't know why is that. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's like that. I don't know.
For right now, it's really good, especially when you have a president that's kind of towing the line and trying to sit in two seats.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like that. Again, I would say I don't know if it's good or right, but we are just like that, and people are massively rejecting European Union. European Union is now in 2024 it has like 80% of people are against European Union. In 2010, like 60% was like for European Union, for joining, like tomorrow, let's join the European Union. Now everybody is against European Union in Serbia. Serbia in European Union. So I don't know what to say to these guys in Brussels. They still keep on investing, and I think that they're throwing the money away. We saw what happened in Georgia, right? today, you know what? It was inauguration of the president. Like they defended their country from European Union and from the funds of George Soros and the others. You know, Serbia. If politicians do not do that, the people will do it. You know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mario, for giving us that rundown, and both of you for sharing the experience in Donbass. Again, go check out some of the content that we've put out over the course of the last couple of weeks. I think it's definitely unique, and some unique perspectives that you guys were able to hear. And you know, hopefully we can continue to build those bridges. So just hats off to you guys for making that effort and taking, you know, a little bit of risk to go out there and experience that side of things. So we appreciate you. There's a lot of news from the past week, and I know that we wanted to run through some of it. It's funny, some of the in the comments here, we have a couple of people saying Mario was a Jew, just like John is a Jew. So maybe we could talk about Israel.
It's a crazy Irish person. Sunday.
Shalom.
But no, I mean, we'll get to that. We'll talk about a couple of the Groyper, some of the Groyper stuff.
Shalom alaikum.
But shalom to you too. Yeah, I hope your Sunday is blessed. I know it's on the Sabbath, but I guess we're just past it. So
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, so we'll have more this week. We'll have the interview with the refugees posted. Some of the interview that Mario did with Ukrainian soldiers that are fighting in Russia. But then, hopefully at the end of next month, so January, we will start a new show with our friend Ivan. We'll restart actually Voices of Donetsk. So he'll, fingers crossed, we might get the American guy that gave the Russians all the information from Tasov Yar. We might get him on the interview. We'll get some cool stories from Donbass once a month, I think. So it'll be another new show to add.
Surprises abound. New shows abound. Well, thank you both. And Mario, I'm sure you'll be on soon, and I'll probably talk to you in like 20 minutes. Bye. Remove yourselves. What a week.
We got more to get to.
All right. So I love this Al-Jilani guy. So let's talk about this guy. So he did an interview today. So he said that he has a plan to democratize Syria. So we have a 3-year process to draw up a new constitution. Not really sure why we need 3 years to draw up a constitution. No elections. I guess this guy really does think he's Zelensky. No elections for 4 years. So we're transitioning for a 4-year timeline to organize elections, but none of that can be done until a population census is complete. There's a plan in place to dissolve HTS, but HTS will then transition into the new Syrian army. He proposed to resolve the crisis in northeastern Syria with the SDF through negotiations and subordinating them to a centralized Ministry of Defense and in international relations. He expressed gratitude to Saudi Arabia. He's optimistic that Donald Trump will lift the sanctions, and he is looking to strengthen relations with Russia. Your thoughts on Al-Jilani, Al-Shara?
Well, this is the radical woke democracy, I guess, right? A dictatorship, basically, with no end in sight. Like you said, a 3-year process for drafting a new constitution. I mean, that is absolutely crazy. And there's so much historical precedent for even countries that have been involved in war to draft new constitutions and set up new forms of government and take control of the institutions that are already existing. So 3 years is an incredibly long time, but it's also not all that surprising. I mean, we just had our interview with Professor Morandi, where I think we went in good detail about how much chaos Syria as a whole is in. And I think that there's a quiet recognition that it's going to be in a state of perpetual chaos with no conceivable end in sight. And this plan really reflects that. Now, whether this dissolution of HTS will actually be able to take effect and a new Syrian army will be created, I think there's a lot left to see. they're going to have huge problems on their hands from the jump. I mean, I mentioned Israel at the start, but of course we understand how much Israel plays a role in destabilizing the region in Syria. You also have any number of things that could happen in Syria when it comes to the Kurds and Turkey. And all of these alliances are so in a state of constant flux. Things are always shifting, and you never know what could set off, even mistakes between forces that might be aligned at the current moment could set off a chain reaction of events that just plunge Syria into deeper chaos. So this is just kind of on paper evidence of how far Syria has descended and actually how far away they've drifted from any semblance of a democracy or a republic. So that's my initial reaction. Is just like, for all the people that are saying, this is a new day for Syria, or Syria is now free. It's very much the opposite, and I think that the democratization plan shows just that.
Well, I mean, Alawites and Christians are still running for their lives. I think that we talked a little bit about the Alawites. Maybe we touched on the Christians as well, but their Orthodox Christmas is coming up. It's on the 7th. They celebrate both in Syria. They have both Catholics and Orthodox Christians. So I'm sure that the 7th will be another dark day as they continue to be pretty much ethnically cleansed. Malula is one of the last towns on earth that speaks Aramaic, the language of Jesus Christ himself, and they're being ethnically cleansed from their homes and replaced with Uyghur families, I guess. I'm not Turkish families.
And for the Western media, it's just such a it's like a Black Mirror episode, because for decades they've used the anti-Islam propaganda to say to use as a pretext and justification for intervening in the region and the threat to global Christendom. But when it comes to Syria, like what you just said, we've detailed many of the attacks on Christians, but not only Christians, on the traditions of Christianity. And the West just doesn't cover it. In fact, they do everything, it seems like, to kind of put a wool over the public's eyes about just how tolerant HTS and these other groups are to Christians. I mean, we saw a Christmas tree go up, and Western media covered this as an example of the tolerance of HTS. 2 days later, it's burned to the ground, and there's not the outrage. But I mean, you can imagine anywhere else in the world where the United States has.
If the like Bel or German Berlin Christmas tree was burned to the ground.
Oh my God, it would be next level. But I guess there's an international component to this too. It seems like HTS is trying to kind of orient and find themselves within this. I don't know how to describe it. Is it a new Middle East, or is it a dying Middle East? I know HTS is trying to kind of build relations with Saudi Arabia and some of these other Western puppets, quite frankly, and has even talked about a willingness to explore strategic ties with Russia. What do you make of all that?
I don't think that the Middle East will be the Middle East as we know it. The only loose end that I see that needs to be tied up now is Iraq. The rest belongs to Turkey and the Levant. So the Levant being Greater Israel, I guess. Well, whatever. But it's really Turkey and the Levant. Turkey now controls the northern part of the Levant, and then Israel has the bottom. And then, you have Maronites and you have your HTS mixed in. As far as the Middle East, that's going to probably be relegated to the peninsula. That's why I say Iraq is really just the only loose end that needs to be tied up. What happens to Iraq? And I think that will be the last domino to kind of fall. We will see. As we see that they're taking on Yemen right now, which isn't necessarily a land grab. It's more to subjugate and subdue them into complacency or whatever, compliance. But there is no more Middle East as we know it after this Gaza genocide and the fall of Assad. Because Syria has shrunk to the size of, I don't even know, it's tiny now between what Israel has taken and what Turkey has taken and what the United States uses for themselves. So, I mean, what is the Middle East anymore? It's all just broken up into Turkestan, like Turkish enclaves and Kurdish enclaves, and then Iran. And then that's really it. And it's just, I don't know that people understand. As you can hate Assad, we can agree that he wasn't the best dictator and we probably wouldn't want to live under him, but we got to start admitting what toppling him did to the face of the earth, not just to Syria. And I think that's important. And I think that people will understand once the terrorists and the terrorism get out of control, because what Saudi does is they fund it all and then they hide in the peninsula. And that's what will happen, is that Saudi will just fund terrorism and hide on the peninsula. But I think I mentioned the bombing of Yemen. So let's talk about that a little bit. So we have go ahead, you take it.
Yeah. Well,
before we go, I do want to recommend this book that I just finished. It's called Forsaken: The Persecution of Christians in Today's Middle East. And it's really good. I had no idea that it was that bad. It's mostly about the 2000 after 9/11. So it's pretty up to date. But it's really, really good, really insightful, and gives you some clues as to what's going on or what might happen in Iraq and Syria. But yeah, Yemen bombing dirt into dirt, I guess.
Bombing into dirt, bombing the people in sandals who continue to provide a really dangerous example, at least in the eyes of the United States and Israel. And I think it's precisely that. It's because Yemen has endured decades of sanctions, warfare, strangulation of their economy. I mean, for the past decade, Yemen has been undergoing a famine, and we've seen many pictures over the last several years of the toll that that's caused. But that has not stopped Yemen from fighting back and being probably the staunchest supporter of Palestine that's left, quite frankly. And I also think that Yemen's example should provoke some of the Arab governments to at least consider, why have they been so toothless and deficient when it comes to standing up to Israel and standing for Palestine? But I wanted to play the clip, so we'll walk through kind of some of the events that have happened.
Sure.
Yemen has continued to send missiles, ballistic missiles, into Israel, targeting Tel Aviv and other cities, despite the fact that Syria has now fallen and that Israel has taken the Golan Heights and seems to be on its warpath. Yemen has not relented. This has resulted in a reaction, of course, from Israel and the United States, bombing the areas controlled by the Houthis. But they're still not backing down. They continue to take Reaper drones out of the sky. And there was actually a dramatic video that was just released this morning, I believe. So let's play that real quick, and then we'll keep talking. And I always say, you know, if people have any doubts that the U.S. hasn't definitively taken a side in this conflict between Israel and Palestine, just look at what they're doing to Yemen. They're still flying Reaper drones over Yemen and over the Houthis.
Well, they don't want to fly the F-18s. They might lose one.
That's right. Yeah. So tell us about that, Sarah. What?
There's really not a whole lot. I mean, at this point, I think that it was air clutter and something hit the F-18 and the pilot ejected at that point. But yeah. So we talked about it a little bit with Dr. Morandi. I don't want to get too far into it, but I mean, either way, the conditions were created by Ansarallah to make that F-18 fall out of the sky. So they get credit for downing an F-18. They didn't say that they hit it directly, so I'll just say that they didn't, and that we shot it down out of the sky. There's probably more of an explanation than that, but why? Do we need one? Not really. And then the retaliation came, and then they shot down the drone yesterday. And so there will probably be more retaliation. I think people forget about the people think it's always a tit for tat. They don't really understand the geopolitical interest behind it. People need to start looking at Somaliland and what's actually going on in Yemen. It's not just about, oh, we got to get these Houthis in line and they're not listening to us. They won't stop bombing us. There's a lot more at play here. Bab el-Mandeb, Somaliland is being created as a counter to Yemen, pretty much. And so, and a counter to Sudan and Somalia. And so Somaliland will host an Israeli base, and that will be directly across from Yemen. Well, they can't have Ansar Allah being very strong or very armed, or thinking that they're bigger than they are and attacking said base. So this is to get them in line and to get them on the same level as Hezbollah is now, which is pretty well depleted. I think they will be surprised to find that they're going to be much more difficult to defeat. But they also we know from the Saudis that they have no problems bombing Yemen into oblivion and blockading it until they starve to death. So we'll see what happens with Yemen.
So Israel's going north into the Golan Heights. They're also trying to assert domination over the Red Sea. Is this kind of is this really the next area of focus? I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but.
Well, I think that they'll be done with Yemen pretty quickly. It's really, Yemen is one of those things that you can't bomb it into oblivion. You just can't. There's just no way. You're not going to be able to bunker bust everything unless you drop a nuke. Like it's just a different animal. They just don't understand it. So this is more about getting them in line and kind of subdued to a point, or maybe just depleting some of their weapon stocks and whatnot. That after that, I want to know what happened with, what will happen with Iraq, because Iraq is still very messy. It's still very sectarian, and we have a completely sectarian state in Syria next to it developing. Yeah. Erdogan has a huge problem with the Kurds. Do the Kurds go back into Iraq? Do they fight back? We don't know. So Iraq will be the one that's very scary. That will require more involvement from Saudi and Qatar, because Saudi will be having to protect its borders again. So we'll see more then. With Yemen, it's more so just a bomb and scoot. And that's exactly what the ships and the airplanes are doing, is bombing and just scooting, vacating the area.
Yeah, and when it comes to resources and broader geopolitical strategy, Iraq has always been the golden prize, right? I mean, this is why the United States, part of the reason the United States invaded in the first place, is Iraq's always had a very developed ecological base. And now, of course, they're beginning to seemingly assert some elements of sovereignty with the relationships that they've been building with China and so on. And so it seems like that would be a key interest of the United States, Israel, and their allies, to kind of make sure that that doesn't happen, that a new Iran doesn't, or I guess maybe that's being a little generous, but a new Iran doesn't emerge in Iraq. But I also think that there has been a lot of coping. I just want to say it, when it comes to the axis of resistance in general. We have, not from us,
no,
but there has been
we actually got complimented for being so pragmatic and held back.
Definitely. And I think that it speaks to the fact that, we also tend to have an awareness, at least at DD Geopolitics, of kind of some of the class dynamics. And I think that those have really been neglected by even many of the axis of resistance governments. Unfortunately, just having solidarity in a religion or a sect of religion is not going to provide the sovereignty or the level of integration and unity among the population that you really need, I think, in order to fight the West. And I think that there has been a general neglect of building up, whether you want to call it a populist or working class base, that is actually unified based on their material interests, as well as the broader religious and spiritual grounding that I think is also necessary. But that first element has been sorely lacking, and I think it actually continues to be neglected in countries like Iran. And it causes them not to see their material interests clearly, or to understand exactly how the Western imperialists operate. So I think that's still one of my main concerns for the governments that are holding on to some semblance of anti-West or independent politics.
Well, I think we had 3 or 4 Boeings fall out of the sky this week. We'll just wrap up. Well, I'll tie up the Azerbaijani thing. I mean, we still don't know what happened, although Putin did issue an apology. It wasn't for the crash or causing the crash. It was more so a sorry for the loss. The investigation's still going. It's pretty clear what happened. I mean, there's tons of different factors that contributed to that perfect storm. So I think Grozny had an air raid. There were drones in the air. There was 80 in the air. It was foggy. The emergency landing was denied more than once to Grozny. It just many things at once. So I'm sure we'll find out more about that at a further point in time. The black boxes have been sent to Brazil for analysis. So that case is on the back burner until then. But a plane just, a bird strike in South Korea and a plane hit a wall.
Yeah, Boeing's falling out of the sky. That one was actually very dramatic. And maybe it's kind of symbolic of where South Korea is headed right now. We won't go too much into South Korea, but it is notable that the United States, big backer of South Korea, the Trump administration is coming in, has generally had favorable relations with South Korea, although Trump famously had a meeting with Kim Jong-un. And so we'll see exactly how those relationships develop. But stateside, there has been an interesting development within MAGA. We're now starting to see the outline of a MAGA civil war.
Cracks begin to show. Eventually, they always do.
They always do. And the real interests begin to pop through. And just how impotent Trump is will be obvious again. I think that people have put way too much stock, quite frankly, in Trump's ability to change anything. And now we're seeing this issue come up with the H-1B visa issue. This has caused the wedge between kind of the Silicon Valley tech MAGA people and then maybe the diehard America.
New MAGA and old MAGA, they're calling themselves.
Who's new MAGA?
New MAGA is the tech bros that came along with Elon. Old MAGA is the gold standard, make America great again, people like you guys. I just want to say really quickly before we even get into this conversation is this is yet another, as my camera goes out of focus, this is yet another victory lap for DDG because we've been talking shit on Elon for a year. So everybody wants to say we're just haters. No, we're not haters. We knew exactly where this was going. Welcome to fascism. It is here. I am excited as a political science graduate that focused on Eastern European fascism. I finally get to observe my own fascism right here in the United States. Now, what I want is for John to tell us why it's not the gay fascism that makes you go to bed early and why it's actual, real fascism, the real kind.
Well, I think we need to understand something about like Elon Musk and these tech elites. Number one, they were the ones who really created this idea of wokeness in the first place, right? It came from these large, massive corporations, many of them tech-based, who pushed this idea, of these ideas around DEI, these ideas around how to kind of bring woke politics into the cultural sphere of social media. And now they're coming in and acting like the saviors. These people like Elon Musk, who have for a long time been talking about, how bad wokeism is, blah, blah, blah. I mean, these ideas were perpetuated by the same class and same group of people, even if it wasn't Elon specifically. And then let's understand something about Elon too, because on the campaign trail, he tied himself pretty close to Donald Trump by seemingly being in line around the immigration policies, right? Fear mongering about the Venezuelans coming over the border. Elon was a big proponent of that. He spread a lot of information about how these Venezuelan gangs are committing all these crimes, blah, blah, blah. But now we see what he really thinks about immigration, that a lot of it was BS, that a lot of it was just demagoguing people who are vulnerable, because now Elon has flipped and is saying, oh, let's bring in a bunch of people with H-1B visas. Well, okay, these are just different immigrants who are undermining the American workforce in a different way. A lot of the H-1B people do have, jobs in tech or other jobs that require some level of skill or development. But in some ways, this is even worse because a lot of these H-1Bs are also coming in, replacing American workers for lower wages in many cases. If you look on average, they are actually getting lower wages in most fields. And on top of that, it means that we're not investing in actually building up our own youth power base, our own working class, our own education systems and educating Americans. And now where the fascism comes in is that we have known for a long time that we've been heading this direction.
Oh, yeah.
The merger of big corporate and financial monopolies with the government, but it's not just a merger. It is the subservience of institutions meant to serve the public to the financial elites and monopolies that aren't interested in developing American communities at home, but are interested in expropriating as much capital and profit as they can from their global empires, from these international corporate monopolies and financial systems. And now they've figured out how to wedge their way into the Trump administration. Clearly, do a little bit of demagoguing of immigrants on these issues, but not really actually be about protecting the American working class. And now we'll slide in the real fascism, where we can turn everybody into slaves of the big tech monopolies and major corporate elites here in this country. And what it's turned us into, all of us, many of us who use X or other social media platforms, I mean, we see how much content channels like DDG pump out and how little we're actually rewarded by these platforms.
I just want to go on the record saying we have never broken $1,000 a month on Twitter. Never.
That is exactly the evidence of us becoming serfs in this new feudal, technological feudalism, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what it is.
Techno-feudalism for Elon. As we slave away and build his AI data mining empire, and he gives us pennies that we all fight over. We all argue we don't, but like all the people argue and have spaces over it every time the checks come out. It's literally them arguing over the crumbs. It's like me with my 10 cookies, you with your 4, but watch out for that guy. He's going to steal one of your cookies. Well, it's exactly that. It's happening like right in front of us. And what's so great is that like I'm not going to I keep tooting our own horns. I don't care. We figured it out pretty early on, but then like people really bought into this Doge thing. And that was like the final nail in the coffin for me was Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. And like Elon and Vivek are going to run it. And I'm so glad that's like finally these right wingers that are much more interested in, or much more better at research, or I don't know, care about this more than I do, are now discovering it, because they're telling us all about the disgusting, horrible, slimy business deals that Vivek and Elon did to get to where they are. I mean, I knew about Elon. I had no idea about Vivek. And first of all, the guy wears shoes that are one size too big. Ladies know, fellas, I'm going to tell you, do not trust a man who wears a sizes shoes that are too big for him. That means he's poor. Okay?
Or he's got some problems downstairs with his, psychology around that whole thing. Right. Either way, you probably want to stay away. But yeah, I mean, to go back to the feudalism piece, like, and how you said people are fighting over crumbs. We've seen a few people get these like massive payouts, which are just ridiculous, because some of these people don't even have nearly the audience or engagement, for example, that DD Geopolitics has, but is getting $20,000 a month. How is that possible? Well, it's just like feudalism. It's the serf who sucks up to the feudal lord, even if they're not plowing as many acres. And you got DD Geopolitics out here with 10 acres of land, tilling the fields every day, but who puts the middle finger up to the feudal lord and is trying to kind of organize the other peasants who we find ourselves in common with, is obviously not favored. So, that's the exact paradigm that we're living in, and people need to wake up to it. And if people also, like these groypers who are now getting purged, they've been instrumental in their own demise, because instead of actually working with people like us, recognizing that we need to build a broad solidarity. I don't love that word because it's overused by the left, but that's what we need.
If you will.
It's and instead making things about race, that everything is having these paranoid ideas about Jews this, Jews that, calling us Jews in the comments.
Right. And now they're fucked.
Where's that going to get you?
But see, that's the thing, is we were better off because we knew we were fucked. They're just finding out now.
Yep.
Oh my God. They didn't realize. We told you all when he let Nick back on the panel, or back on the platform. This is just go for Nick. He brought people back on the platform to give himself more power. All that people like Nick did was reinforce all of this bullshit that Elon believes in, the Zionism, the H-1B crap. It's like a lot of the people that like are like, I'm censored and now I'm not on Twitter. They were the ones who really served this sort of power grab by being disgusting.
Yeah,
right?
the fixation on wokeness, fixation on racial-based politics. I mean, that's everything that Elon was doing. And until the H-1B thing, it dovetailed perfectly, really. I mean, he didn't even have a problem with all of the crazy things that they would say about Jew this, Jew that. But now, of course, they're criticizing H-1B visas. Now they understand what the elites really care about.
Right.
And they actually want to promote racism, but they don't want to spur a conversation about how are American workers being affected. No, let's not talk about that.
I really think that that's important. I'm glad you said that. That's what we need to stress. And so our listeners, viewers, whatever you guys are right now, that's what we need to stress, is that as soon as it became about the working class, as soon as it became about American workers, it was like, kibosh, that's it. You guys don't get to talk about that. Go talk about Jews and Zionists and how much you hate Israel, because that, that plays into our anti-Semitism hands. Don't talk about the working class or wanting better for the working class. That conversation ends now. That should tell you everything you need to know about who controls what and what they actually care to control. Why do you think Elon protects bringing in illegals and legal immigrants? Because he doesn't give a fuck about the working class. But no, they've already made it. They don't give a fuck about white Americans.
Yeah. And they put on this facade of these different segments of the elite kind of competing, it's different sectors of the elite that are competing with each other and vying for power under this new form of fascism that we're now entering into, like for real. And that is the only real divide when it comes to the way this polarized politics in the mainstream media is presented. But the real polarity is between those people and then the rest of us. And we got to get wise to it, or we're going to be screwed. So there's your warning, everybody. Trump administration, we're now 22 days away. And hopefully we just get there without going into a full world war with Russia or any false flags happening. How do you feel about that, Sarah? How do you feel about making it to the inauguration?
We'll make it there. I don't have an issue with Trump, so I want to put that out there. It's not Trump that I think is like going to be the one who just fucks everything up. It's these people. These people are terrifying. It's the Tulsi Gabbard that worked for propaganda division in the army, and now she's in charge of intelligence. It's the Kash Patel, or Kosh, however he likes to say his stupid name. It's Vivek and Elon literally giving the Fox keys to the hen house. It's these things, and we're giving the keys to unregulated sectors over to the people who work in the enterprises and the corporations in that sector to write the regulations. It's crazy. I mean, you and I and I keep trying to convey this to people, and I'm having a hard time, so hopefully you can help. You and I just went to that conference in Russia, and a huge amount of that was about like, let's not let our technology get completely unharnessed the way that it has in the United States. And now I'm looking and I'm like, this all has to do with that. This is just techno oligarchy, and they're just running our country. And we've never put anything in place that would prevent that.
Yeah. Well, for people who are like scared about the word socialism in this country, I've kind of described like what we're experiencing right now is like, is socialism with profit alone being the social goal. And unfortunately, that is going to filter also into this new technological tyranny that we're experiencing, where the technology is literally geared, this AI and automated learning is going to be geared toward generating as much profit as possible. And that will naturally come into conflict with not only like the needs of the working class, but the overall production and well-being of the American economy and society and communities as a whole, because there comes to a point where the profit maximization actually disincentivizes capital investment from building your productive industries. And we're seeing that exactly in the United States. I mean, our country is a perfect case study for that fundamental principle being proven correct. I mean, look at how much our country's become deindustrialized in the last 40 years, but how much profits for our massive corporate monopolies and financial monopolies has skyrocketed. And then just to go back on that last point that you're making about Trump, yeah, I don't hate Trump either. people put too much emphasis on him being a hero and being a villain. He's neither, guys.
It's just
he's neither. The
businessman.
U.S. president doesn't have that much power. Let's just be like honest about that. They don't have them. There's a continuity of power that goes through each administration and above the head of every president. I mean, Biden was senile for 4 years, basically was doing nothing, and the system was operating and fulfilling its goals very efficiently in some cases without him. I mean, they just overthrew a government in Syria with a president who had absolutely no idea what was going on, but it was serving the interest of that agenda. And unfortunately, Trump is not. He's not the man riding in on the white horse who's going to save the day.
I hope that people now understand that Elon is not that person either, and that Twitter is what it is because Elon wants it that way, and that people really start understanding what's really going on here. And the people say, oh, well, you're still on Twitter. Yeah, that's the point, because I'm going to use exactly what they're doing against them. And that's exactly what we should be doing. We should be turning it back around. Look at how quickly Elon started walking back with his comments about H-1B. First, he said, I'll go to war over this shit. Like, okay, guy. And now today he's saying, no, H-1B will be overhauled to a place where it works well for Americans. He still doesn't get it, but he did backtrack pretty quickly within a 48-hour period. I mean, yeah, somebody just mentioned it's kind of weird he has 12 kids. You think so? You think it's kind of weird? He carries the one around like an accessory. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. If a Democrat did that, the Republicans would have had a field day. Like, look at this person bringing their kid to everywhere. Like, what's wrong with you? Why is the kid at a party at Mar-a-Lago? Like, blah, blah, blah. You know exactly that's what it brings it around. And instead of people being like, dude, this is ridiculous and trashy, people are like, oh, it's cute. It's Elon, because Elon's just an autistic, overgrown 6-year-old that everybody like placates because he's a billionaire. The dude's a sleazeball. Like, we're probably gonna get banned from Twitter, honestly. But the dude's a horrible person.
Yeah, and to add a little bit more about that, like, and you've seen him how he criticized like a couple of his kids who have.
All right, his kid is trans, which I'm not a trans approver, but I'm not one to embarrass my kid. Like, he's one of the most powerful men in the world, and he got on and said, "My child's dead to me." Like, what's wrong with you?
And blaming like the woke mind virus, it takes no responsibility for the fact that, sorry, man, if that's the case, that's your fault. Like, take some responsibility for it. But the funny thing is, it is actually his fault, both at a personal level and then at a social level, where these big monopolies have created the alienation that's feeding all of this mental distress, loss of identity, all of these things that make young people feel like they don't know who they are in the world anymore. There's not a common social bond that's uniting us. And Elon has participated in that just as much, if not more, than anybody else.
He's just a shyster who has Asperger's. He didn't invent anything.
Yeah. And guys, if it takes you 5 seconds to get each word out, it doesn't mean that your words are coming from the mountaintops. It just means that you don't know that much. Honestly.
Yeah, or if you just say go fuck yourself. That doesn't make you like a cool standing up to the system guy.
He did that once, was it 2 years ago when he was being interviewed?
Last year, like, go fuck yourself.
Oh yeah.
He's so autistic.
He's and now he's like latched onto that. Like, he thought it was so cool that now that's his thing. And it just it's so cringe.
It's also forced and ridiculous. Like, everything with him is just so weird. If you really look at him with the idea in your head, like, this is just a weird man with Asperger's, it becomes very clear. Like, it really is. He's a fake it till you make it. He didn't invent PayPal. He didn't invent Tesla. Half the rockets don't even work. Like, this is so bogus. He's gotten billions of dollars in government grants, and we don't have a Hyperloop. What are we doing? And he almost did it. He had to get loans to buy Twitter. Like, and he's doing keto. And you know what? I'm not even going to say it because I'm going to get us banned. But you guys know. All right. Anyway, and bigger news.
Sarah and I are just throwing alley-oops to each other to dunk on Elon and potentially get us banned. That's basically
somebody's going to record this, send it to Elon and report it. All right. And in better news, we have a new podcast coming out with Chris Helwali. He's in Russia right now. I wish he could pop in for a cameo. People are already complaining that it's too communist. Well, you want to know what I have to say to that? If you have a counter podcast that you would like to broadcast, then please pitch it to us. Until then, stop fucking complaining about what's on the channel. Don't tune in. Anyway, it's coming out very soon. It's going to be great. Let me get the description right from the horse's mouth. So Chris, Not One Step Back is a podcast dedicated to understanding the emerging multipolar world, as well as delving into the history, politics, and philosophy behind important events and movements, both past and present, hosted by the High Bailiff himself, Christopher Hilali. So that's good. And John, you have a new show coming up. Why don't you tell us about it if you ever get around to doing it?
Yeah, well, we got a new show coming up. It's going to be a pre-recorded show, a little bit shorter, and I'm just going to be doing a 10 to 15-minute monologue covering some of the week's events just once a week. Obviously, I'll still be doing this show with Sarah in our live streams, but we'll be taking more interviews from some smaller voices, kind of based in the United States primarily, but then we'll get international guests as well to break down the week's geopolitical events as it relates to the fascism that is unfolding in America. And these are all big red flags. So there's a bunch of red flags that we are going to have to identify and be aware of. And that's what the podcast is dedicated.
That Not One Step Back, which is Chris. So if you guys don't know, I'm going to tell you, I'll get you in on it. It's not the new Backstreet Boys single. It is an order from Stalin during the siege that they were not to take one step back. Then we have John's red flags coming out to guide us into the fascistic techno-feudalism that we will be living in for the foreseeable future. And then I'm trying to find another female. So I have this great idea for a podcast where like women just complain about politics and like guys hate women doing politics. So this is just women, and it's called multipolar disorder because women are insane. So I need to find some more women to do that. But Georgia inauguration, my thoughts on that. I don't have any. It seemed to go pretty uneventful. She said she wasn't going to leave. Then she wound up leaving. New president is in. They said they'll file criminal charges if need be. Over and done. I do, however, have a picture of the final boss that the president of Georgia needed to defeat before taking office. That might be Victoria Nuland under all that.
It might be.
Could you imagine? Like, what are you doing,
like
bro?
Demon.
Like, this is my sleep paralysis demon. Like, that's what visits me at night.
Well, but I did want to say one word of support for the show idea with another woman, because we need we're gonna send you on a mission to disrupt and divide the manosphere. And we need two non-woke women.
You know what's so funny is that boxing, guys, if you don't follow boxing on Twitter, go follow him. He's the funniest. He's so funny and neurotic. But he was talking about, it's like, we got to get the women out there. Like, why aren't they doing any of this, like, honey potting, breaking up these people? Like, he was like, we need to get the women to go harass these H-1B visa havers and all this stuff. So you're going to send me on a mission to break up the manosphere. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and through that process, you'll see that a lot of them really are just simps at the end of the day in the closet, but want to convince themselves that they're not. Come on, we're men. But
at the end of the day, we're all animals. I think we'll be back on Tuesday though with a new Happy New Year with Nick from Revolutionary Blackout. Maybe Professor Shaw will join us. We'll do like a little maybe end of the year awards, end of the year wrap up, biggest events, big stories.
Professor Shaw wants to join, and I think this will be good to talk about with Nick too. We can dive into some of the Amazon union strikes because I know we didn't cover that in detail, but there's been a lot happening on the ground as the reaction to this techno-feudalism, fascism is beginning to unfold and take shape.
Yeah,
so I do think
like meet techno-feudalism. Like, it's like, I don't know, we got to do something with that. I'm seeing things.
Yeah, we can make
your designs for techno-feudalism or your beats, techno-feudalism.
Barut
would love that. He's always into Tron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys probably on Tuesday. Go to DDGeopolitics.com. Make sure you subscribe to the Substack. Chris's podcast will be free, but you please consider supporting us. We are broke and we have to go to Iraq. So thank you guys. And we will see you on Tuesday, and we'll see you on Twitter in the spaces. Follow boxing, follow Mario, especially if you're a Serb. Follow Mario. And we'll see you guys next time.
Hello.